All right, everybody, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you have joined. This is Brijesh Deb, your host for the What Lies Beneath Ask Me Anything session here live on the Test Chat YouTube channel. Well, it is awesome to have Mark Kardashov with me. Mark is the CEO of TestProject and has been doing some really cool things. And we are going to be talking to Mark today live. So, first question, how are you, Mark?
Hmm, I'm great. Thank you, Rajesh. Good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And okay, so without wasting much time, I will dish out my very first question at you. Uh, we know how cool Test Project is in terms of a product. But what I am more interested in is in knowing how did it all get started? What was your motivation for building such an awesome product?
Yeah, thank you for a kind words firstly, Rajesh. So yeah, back then, 6 years ago, basically there was like Selenium and Appium dominated the market in terms of
Yes,
test automation. You probably know that.
yes,
Selenium back then already dominated with more than 80% of entire test automation projects were involving Selenium drivers. And there are some desktop automation tools such as QTP and others, if you recall and you remember.
yes.
But it was obviously that Selenium is going to, dominate. But unfortunately, there wasn't any sufficient and easy solutions while implementing Selenium frameworks. So every time test automation fellas, building from scratch the page object models and other, reporting modules and third-party libraries, and every time, every project, it was repeated over and over again. And I think that this was one of the main motivations behind the project to simplify and enable Selenium in Appium for for other testers that don't have those skills, maybe deep technical skills.
So basically, what I gather is that uh, the motivation was to make testers' life easy. To enable testers with not so much of really deep coding skills to be able to use Appium and Selenium and create some magic with automation. That is a wonderful motivation to have. So, what are the basic problems that you were trying to solve at that point of time for testers, if I'm asking?
So, so at that point of time, I think the problems some of them remind the same problems. Unfortunately, there is no magic in automation. Automation is hard to implement and sometimes can be a big pain in the ass. Sorry for my language.
No, no, that's okay.
Uh,
That it is. It is indeed. Yeah.
yeah. So we try to solve several problems. The first is the ease of setup. So instead of using multiple libraries, for instance, even if you test web application and you want to make some interoperability testing, so you want to test your application Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and I don't know, Safari, you need to have 4 different web drivers. And then
Yes.
you need to create some, I don't know, some class or some interface, some singleton that will helps you to create a specific driver when you create it. And then you need to create a reporting model because Selenium, it's only a driver, it doesn't provide any reports. So you will using probably some assertion framework, JUnit, NUnit, PyTest, depends on your programming language. And all of those components are basically solved by a single executable, which is a test project agent. So right now, if you want to start your testing, you just need to, we just took everything and just bundle it inside an engine. So you don't need to install Appium server or configure
Yes.
it. You don't need to have 4 different Selenium web drivers. You just install this single executable component, and we download everything for you automatically. So if you like update your version of Chrome or Firefox, you will instantly get a new version of WebDriver, which is wonderful.
Awesome. How cool is that?
So
Now,
this is the first problem that we tried to solve.
yeah,
And the second major problem was how you collaborate with your teammates. And even after you created this framework, let's say page object model or other framework, and created your test suite, how you take those 100 test cases that you created and share it with you, Brajesh, or with someone else, and what is the process of
yeah,
sharing those tests?
email.
Probably, yeah. Probably email or maybe a Git access to the Git repository, access to the VPN. You need to allow him establishing the entire framework that you created on your end, right? It can be challenging sometimes. So this is the other problem that we solved with the cloud repository.
Awesome, awesome. So what was your approach towards solving these problems? Well, before you answer that question, let me just remind the audience, guys, feel free to ask your questions in the comments, and Mark is here to answer the questions. That's what he's going to be doing today. So feel free to shoot your questions. So,
Yeah.
Mark, what was your approach towards solving the problems that you said that you just mentioned?
Basically, trying not to reinvent the wheel, using the best of breed technologies, which is already there, like Selenium, Appium, and others, and trying to package them in a nice and simple, box package, and allow those components to everyone. The second approach was how to enable those wonderful components to the testers. And we created like a cool interface that you're probably familiar with, the TestProject recorder, that helps you to create scriptless tests, but by basically behind the scenes running Selenium and Appium APIs. So those two major components was our focus, try to solve the basic challenges in test automation. First, make it available for everyone. And the second, trying to remove some of the complexity from at least the infrastructure level of it, because there are other complexities on how you build tests, how you build data-driven tests, element locators, etc., etc. But let's try whatever could be easier, and wherever we can simplify the life of a tester, let's try to simplify it there.
Well, thank you for that response. Here is a question for you. Majorly, people are concerned with data storage on TestProject site. How do we convince customers it's safe and all the test cases stay on the TestProject portal, which is not your company portal or not even the customer's portal? So how do you convince that? I mean, what is your response to that?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually, and it's good that it's been asked. So first, we have like a dedicated security page on TestProject website. So you can navigate to the security page, and we try to explain what measures are taking place to make TestProject safe and secure, both on the agent level and the cloud level. But I will try to explain and elaborate about it a little bit more. So currently, the TestProject community consists of more than 70,000 companies and individuals, both large companies and small companies. So we have dedicated teams that are working there and to make your environment safe, so you can sleep good at night. But it's important to understand how TestProject works, and by doing that, maybe to reduce some concerns in that area. So we need to understand that the agent that is running locally is basically responsible for the entire execution of your tests. So all of your data and interaction with your website or a native application on the mobile done locally on premise. No data live outside your on-premise local area network. The only thing that's stored in TestProject are the tests and the parameters, and in some cases, screenshots. So screenshots can be disabled in some cases. So if you have a sensitive test case and you don't want to, I don't know, if in case of failure, you don't want to save a screenshot, you can disable saving screenshots if you want to. And the parameters are encrypted. So you have an option to make those parameters as a secret parameters. And basically, those are the only valuable data that are saved in TestProject Cloud, because the test cases themselves, they usually doesn't contain any sensitive data. What is the test case? A test case is a JSON file that is this script that says, okay, I'm gonna click this button, and then I'm gonna enter text to this text box, and then I'm gonna validate that this label exists. I don't know if anyone has anything like, even if anyone will, get access to this data, it's not valuable. The things that are valuable are the parameters that I strongly recommend to use the secret parameters features of TestProject. And by making those parameters secret, they will be encrypted on top of the standard encryption by 3 different keys. And those 3 different keys stored in 3 different places. So the secret parameters are encrypted by 3 different keys, hashed, and even if something will happen, it will be only an encrypted key.
Yes, that is very important. And those of you who are really concerned about the security, or you see a threat perception, do make use of the secret parameters, because that will give you a sleepless, sorry, a night full of good sleep, not a sleepless night. Yeah. Okay. Here is another question from Sachin Sharma. He says, they say test project does not require extensive knowledge of programming. Is it a rumor or it's a fact? I like this question. I like the
Yeah,
way it is asked.
it's a good question. So I think it's a fact. If we will have time, I can share a test that I will create myself without a single line of code. We can make it live if you want to. Maybe if we will have enough time, we just launched the new AI tools for mobile. So those tools are also available for free for everyone. I think TestProject is the first framework that enables AI-powered automation tools for everyone without any charging. So if we'll have time, I'll gladly show you some stuff and see how it's done myself here.
Definitely. No, we would like to see some of the cool stuff that you're talking about. I mean, including the secret parameters, maybe as to how to use it, so that people get that confidence.
Yeah,
Well,
good stuff.
well. So here is another question, which is more from a security perspective. Do you have a responsible disclosure policy so that external security guys can test your system and report potential security issues to you?
Yeah, we have this bounty program that is also available on the on our security page with the contact details. So yeah, if you found or think that you found any vulnerability or something like that, you can definitely report, and we will address them.
Awesome. Now here is, I think this question may be a little sensitive, but I'll still go ahead and ask you. Uh, what is the business model? How can a company run something for free and forever?
Yeah, it's a good question. So many users ask those, and companies who are using TestProject asking those questions frequently. And we have another page on TestProject that explains why TestProject is free forever. But I will try to address it here as well. So
Mhm.
TestProject actually had a paid plan back in a while. About 2 years ago, we had a plan of something like $8 per user per month. It was very, small charging plan relatively to the product. But
It
this is
was
what
somewhere in 2019, 2018, 2019. That's when
20,
I
yeah,
remember. I remember, yeah.
2 years ago, exactly.
Yeah.
And then TestProject was acquired by Tricentis. Tricentis is one of the largest and greatest companies that provide test automation and testing solutions. One of the best solutions that I met personally is a Q-Test. It's a great tool that it's a commercial tool that helps you to manage your tests. I think it's one of the leading tools today. And Tosca, Tricentis Tosca, which helps you to automate your desktop test automation and other mobile and other automation. So those are the tools. We are part of Tricentis portfolio company. And basically, Tricentis acquired TestProject to provide this as a community tool. And since this acquisition, this tool was free. And by doing that, basically, Tricentis is embracing the automation and open source community because TestProject built on open source tools. And this is the way of Tricentis to give back to the community.
Awesome. Awesome. So I hope your question is answered, Gaurav.
But I do encourage everyone to use Qtest, by the way. It's a paid tool, so if you love use the TestProject, you can use the Qtest as well. And it is a great integration.
Well, of course. So here is another question for you. Do you have some kind of a flakiness index or some other way of doing this?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me see if I have a part 2 of this one. Okay.
Maybe referring to maybe Selenium was referring to how to deal with flaky tests and what is our we have actually, and the tools that we released recently should help you to tackle flaky tests. And maybe if we'll have time later, I will show it live if you want, guys.
We would love that. We would love that.
I feel brave today, Rajesh.
Well, I think this was the part 1 of the question. It got jumbled up. So there are some. So maybe so that question was more of a follow up to this question. So based on this, what is the flakiness index or something like that?
Yeah. So let me try to share my screen.
Yes, that will be nice.
Let me try to do it. If because I know people asking it. Let me see how it's done here. Share screen. Okay, let me see what's happening. Okie doke. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So, okie doke. So I'm sharing the presentation, some slides right now. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the question: why my tests sometimes pass or sometimes fail? Luckiness. And maybe it's a good opportunity to discuss luckiness and how to tackle it with TestProject in general. So what are the reasons behind flackiness? And I think it's a real pain in test automation, since I know it. So the first one is the false positive successful actions. This is the first phenomenon that responsible for flackiness, meaning that sometimes some action was successfully done, but the outcome of this action is not as the application expected. For instance, sometimes you have tap or click, but the click was successful, but nothing happened. So this is the most painful reason for flackiness. The second one is caused by web asynchronous events, meaning that sometimes you have async calls and Ajax calls, and those calls basically are dynamic, and they can interfere and cause for async actions on your UI and make your UI render. After it completely rendered, some of the elements will re-rendered again. And this is something that also can cause flackiness. If we are speaking in terms of mobile, we have, as you probably know, many different device manufacturers. So even on the same Android, We have LG, Samsung, Huawei, and others, and Xiaomi, and they have own tweaks and other stuff that and configuration that can make your execution speed slower, faster, or even have a different layout and different functionality. Internet connection speed is the enemy number one, and the loading times of test automation. We all know that. Dynamic and auto-generated locators. Some applications use dynamic IDs, and for instance, the way Selenium and Appium works, that they use locator strategies, and sometimes to identify the elements, and sometimes those locator strategies are dynamic. So those can be interfere automations because they can be regenerated randomly on the second loading time, etc. So what are the tools that TestProject suggests? And just stop me if I'm...
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so what are the TestProject AI tools that can help you to stabilize those flackiness? And those tools now available for both mobile and web. So you can utilize them, and maybe I will show you how to utilize them live as well for mobile and web. And so for the false positive actions, and this is the real pain in automation, because this is a real tricky to catch. Because imagine to yourself, the action is reported as successful. You cannot catch it on the driver level, you cannot catch it anyhow, because the action was successful. And so for that, we built and launched a tool that's called Automation Assistant. And Automation Assistant, it's an AI powerful tool that basically analyzes each step and detects those cases where action didn't reach their goal. And it will attempt to automatically fix those scenarios. So this is the first and very powerful tool. You don't need to do anything for it. You can disable it if you want to, and it's there. It's in the background. So starting the agent version 0.65.13, you can benefit from this service. The second one is the adaptive wait. The adaptive wait is basically a mechanism that waiting for the entire conditions to met, and for your page to load completely, or for your application to render, for your activity. And it should eliminate internet speed issues or slowness issues. So if, for instance, we just recorded a test on a very powerful machine, like you have, I don't know, 32 gigabytes of CPU, and you have a very fast internet connection, and you're running on i7 CPU, and everything is running very quickly for him, and I'm running in Docker environment, and my execution time take longer, and I have poor internet connection, the adaptive wait will adjust the execution accordingly.
So Mark, here I have a quick question here.
Mhm.
So if you have a situation where you are running tests which involve hardware interaction, and you know that sometimes input coming in from the sensor data or things like that, they might take a little while. So do you think this adaptive wait feature will be useful there, so that it waits till it receives the input from the hardware, so that it proceeds further for the next steps, something like that?
Definitely, the adaptive wait is applicable for every step. So even if you recorded a step that is interacting with your hardware, for instance, some SSH or a telnet, because you can do it with the add-ons.
Yes.
So if the response take more time to get, the adaptive wait, the maximum time that defined there until the response is there. It's not necessarily wait the whole time. It will until the time that defined. So if the response is coming earlier, it will run faster.
Okay, so yeah, so this actually solves a real problem that I was discussing with one of the fellow members from Test Chat Community. So I think this is a real bonus to have.
Yeah, I agree.
Please go ahead.
And the third one, and this is the one that I think that Srini was talking about, is the self-healing, which is the third service that is part of our TestProject AI tools that are provided, which is the self-healing capabilities, meaning that, and this is mainly for UI-based automation for both mobile and web, meaning that if traditionally you build one locator, it can be XPath, it can be CSS, it can be ID to interact with your element. This is how Selenium and Appium works. You have those locator strategies that you build them to identify your element inside your DOM, and this is how you identify it, and then you can do the action based on it. So traditionally, even if you're building a page object model framework, you're building it yourself, it will be a one locator. So TestProject algorithms basically identify each element with multiple locator strategies, usually more than one, and usually even more than 4 or 5. So if your developer now moving the component, or your ID is dynamically generated, or something is broke with your UI, even as a result of dynamic UI, for instance, there is a good chance that the self-healing capability will search for another strategies and locate your locator. And this is a real lifesaver as well. So this is the third component that part of TestProject AI tools.
Well, there is a question that has come for the adaptive weight. How is adaptive weight different from explicit weight in Selenium?
Yeah, so the idea of explicit weight, it somehow reminds the adaptive weight. This is true. And this is a tool in Selenium to tackle those issues. But we basically took this idea and extended. So we're checking another environmental aspects, not only checking where the DOM is complete rendering, and not only checking the basic stuff that Selenium explicit was doing. So we added some more let's call it sensors or more aspects that we're checking in the background.
Awesome. There is another question. It says, I did some automation using the screen recorder tool. When I downloaded the code, which is an awesome feature, I saw that there was a thread.sleep 5000. This is not a recommended way. Why is this weight?
Yeah, so basically it's controllable. So I guess it was something with the execution speed. So at TestProject you have like multiple execution speeds. So by default, the execution speed is I think normal, and the normal is put the threshold of 500 milliseconds, but you can eliminate it. You can I can show how it can be removed.
Yeah, so it'll be nice to have, if you could show us some of the cool things that you've been talking about, so that
Yeah.
people see that in action, and then they can.
Okay. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So I plugged my Pixel 4 to my TestProject account, and I hope my mom won't text me during this session.
It'll be nice to see how your tool responds to your mom's text.
I have an automation for that. Don't tell her. Okay, great. So now I have my Pixel, and I have my agent is running here on my desktop, and I created a TestProject account. And maybe I will try to show you some cool stuff of AI that we release. So if I want to create a new test, let's start from mobile. Yeah. And let's take an application called Bloomberg. And I especially love this application. Yeah. Because for many reasons. Because first, I love reading news. And second, it's built with React Native, which is a bit challenging. Since it's a hybrid framework for mobile, it's a bit challenging to test it. So it's a good example. It's not a simple native application. And it has some web views inside of it, which is even more challenging. So, and as you can see, it takes some time to load. So, but those phenomena will be in any application that we test, right? So some application will load slowly, some application will load fastly, and I could choose YouTube or any other application as well.
Yeah.
So let's create the first test. So currently we're in a recording session, and just to close this ad, and let's go to markets. For instance, as you can see, while doing my test, the steps are being recorded for me. And then let's go back to markets and search for USD, for instance. So now the recorder is working, and everything is happening, as I mentioned, on your local host, because this is my local device connected to my agent, and all of this recording is happening on my real device. And let's choose, I don't know, USD, and let's go back home. So this is a very, let's call it a sanity test that I created with 10 steps. And while I was creating and working through this application, the recorder was recording my steps here. But what I want to show you, it's not the basic recording stuff, it's the AI tools, maybe here. So to see it in action, this is the automation assistant. And as you can see, by default, it's on. You can disable it as well. And here we can find the adaptive weight as well, and the default threshold for adaptive weight, and the execution speed. So the normal is 500 milliseconds, and the fast is without any delays. So if this is a question regarding the generated code, you can switch it to fast, and then you will have step executed one by one without any delay. But let's see what is the impact of the automation assistant on the flakiness and all. Let's play the test. Just as we recorded it, let's just replay the test and see what happens. So as you can see here, and I don't know if you had the chance to see it here. There's a warning message that step number 3 cannot be executed because something's happened, and TestProject they are looking for another path to self-heal it. And now you can see that it's succeeded. Now, let's see what happens if I will disable the automation assistant. Let's replay the test. Here is the adaptive weight. And now, okay, now it happened really quickly, but let's see if it will work without the automation assistant as well. Okay, so now it's passed, but if I will run it again, maybe it will fail. Because as I mentioned, let's give it another try. Some application can be flaky, and it's this is the whole idea of flakiness. So you can see here the adaptive weight is working, and now it couldn't. Here's the flakiness. It couldn't press on step number 3 because it actually pressed on this button, but nothing happened.
Yeah,
because the application wasn't ready. And this problem, for instance, can be solved by automation assistant, which will identify this situation and fix it. Okay, same works for web. I can show you the same like taking. You see now it immediately works. Regarding the adaptive weight, just to show you, so the adaptive weight here is defined by default for 15 seconds. You can change it. You can make it higher, lower, whatever. But let's just see what if we had like almost no adaptive wait, like half second of adaptive wait. So most likely this test will fail, right? Because it takes time to load. It's
Yeah.
not working out of the box. But let's try to see what happens. You see, boom, it fails on the second step immediately.
Yeah.
So this is the power of the first two AI tools. And the third one, let's move it back to, I don't know, I think 10 seconds will be enough. The third one is the self-healing. As I mentioned before, each element identified by 3 or 4 or more locators. As you can see here, this edit text was identified by 4 different locators. So let's break the first one with purpose. So it's not a valid locator, right? And let's see what will happen if we run a test again. So now it seems like the situation that one of the locators was broke from some reason. Here is the adaptive wait, the automation assistant, and now we'll see the self-healing of the third service. As you can see, the step number 7 missing.
Yeah.
And now it will try to find alternative locator, and it could find it. And step number 8 using the same locator, so it will look for it again. And then it will continue. So this test was supposed to fail 3 times without those tools, right? And if I will confirm this message, it will. So now I confirm that the locator strategist was identified, was like a good one, and the test result was as expected. So now you will see that everything will run very fast. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so this is in a nutshell the power of, some AI tools that can be used and already there, so you can use them out of the box, and to improve your
So
testing.
here is a comment for you, especially. So it's awesome to receive a demo from the CEO of a company. So that is a remark for you. And then there is a question which says, can you please show how the recorded code looks? Can I update the code after recording?
Yes, I can show it. So what programming language does he prefer? We currently support Java, C# or Python.
Maybe let's go with Java first, and then.
Okay. So I took this test that I recorded, and by the way, if you remember, Brajesh, now I want to share this test with you.
Yeah.
And all I need to do for that, just press on share test.
Yes.
Add your email here, and you will get this test. And you know what?
Yes.
Let's share it with the entire community. Why not? Let's create a shareable link, and I will send it to you later on. And let's paste it for others to use. Why not?
Or maybe you could just, if you are able to see the chat box, you could maybe copy the link there so that people can see it now.
Let me to see how we can see it. And I don't know if you're still able to see my screen.
No, I'm not able to see your screen. It's gone.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
That 1 second, here you are. Let's see, I have a private chat and I have a comment.
Comments. On the comments tab.
On the comments tab, I cannot post anything, so I will send it to you.
Okay.
And you can share it with everyone.
Okay.
So let me to share my screen once again, maybe. I hope that you got this got this
Yep, I got it. And
screen. Let's share my entire screen. And then
the code and the tests are now shared with everybody.
okay. So now let's generate code.
Yeah.
And to generate code, you just go on the test, the context menu, and then choose the programming language that you want, that we support at the moment. And once it's done, you see, I need to choose project name. Let's give it. Okay, 1 second. I can share it. This is strange. Something happened with my code generator. Let's choose some tests. See, maybe I don't have permission in this project. Yeah, here I have a permission. It doesn't matter which test I'm going to share, it's the same test. So all I need to do is to choose the programming language that I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it's a web test, by the way, but I can show you how it's done on mobile as well. It's the same. It's the mobile will be generated with Appium, and the web will be generated with Selenium.
Yeah.
But it's really depends on. So it will be like that. So it's a basic Appium syntax, even with comments for you.
Yeah.
Nothing special here. Find element by. You can see the X passes or other locator strategies that some elements was indicated. You can see the reports that was already. So TestProject also allow reporting. So you will see those steps that creating reports already there. By the way, the new SDK, the open SDKs, does not require using specific reports. So it will already contain something that's called automatic reporting. So if you don't specify implicit report, it will catch all of your Selenium or Appium commands and it report it on the TestProject dashboard. Hope it makes sense.
Yeah. So there is another question. What's the difference between the two drop down that came while downloading code? TestProject SDK and the other one.
Yeah, so it's a good question. First, it's addressed in our documentation. So if you will go to docs TestProject.io, you will see the differences between the Open SDK and between the TestProject SDK. So I will try to explain in a nutshell. So the TestProject SDK is the original SDK, is the most senior one. It's there from the beginning. And it's also very familiar or similar to Selenium or Appium, but it has its own flavors. So you need to implement some interfaces and you need to do some special stuff there. And so about a year ago, we thought, why not let's create a fully API, fully Selenium or Appium compatible SDK. So the Open SDK is the next generation of the TestProject SDK, and it's 100% compatible with Selenium and Appium. And the bonus that you get is that you don't need to worry about reporting, because as I mentioned before, all of the Selenium and Appium commands are being catched by the agent, and basically he reports them in the cloud to the cloud. So you will have full-blown reports with screenshots, even without having any other third library or writing any line of code. So this is the main difference. The second difference is that until now, the TestProject SDK was allowing to upload TestProject code binaries to the test project. So not only execute them locally, but upload them to the TestProject cloud and then use TestProject as Artifactory to deploy those tests across your organization. And the Open SDK does not allow it yet. It's a scoop for you. It's not allowed yet, but next month we are gonna announce that we're gonna allow upload OpenSDK jars, DLLs as well to test project and deploy it from there. So this is it's a
So
second.
there you go, guys. I mean, there's the first scoop for you as to what's coming up in the days forward. Now, here is a very interesting question that I thought maybe you can answer that. Considering this is your own company's product, do you run tests without this tool, or do you use this tool for all your tests?
That's a good question. So we are doing a lot of dog fooding with that project. Dog fooding is a term when you are using your own products for your own use. So yeah, we're doing a lot of dog fooding with test project, and we're testing test project with test project as well. Yeah, the answer is yes, definitely.
Okay. And so here is some curious questions. I mean, in the lines of the scoop that you gave, what is lined up? What is the roadmap for this year? Can you share some insights?
Um, I can share with you that this year will be full of surprises, and they're all and the roadmap is very busy. The team here is working around the clock to release some very powerful stuff. From you know what, I will share one of them with you, Brajesh, since you're a fellow. Um, we're gonna add parallel execution by a single.
Wow. Wow. So, guys, if you heard it, you are soon going to see parallel execution being added to the test projects. Well, so I mean, testers love that, don't they? Especially the ones who are in automation. So yeah, that'll be awesome. Now,
Yeah,
I want to go back to one of the things that happened recently. Is recently there was this webinar with Jonathan Lips, where he shared some of the cool things that are coming up with Appium 2.0. Now, what is the plan for you guys to integrate those features going into test project in future?
so we're aligned with that. So we are looking enough into it's not new. So up into discussions, and working progress here is for a while, and we're looking very closely on it, and we're planning to fully integrate and use them.
Yeah. So the upcoming features of Appium 2 will be available with test project. Just out of the box is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is fantastic to hear. So you don't have to scratch your heads and say, "Oh, that is available in Appium 2 and not yet available in test project." Well,
Right.
I think that is cool. Now, one of the primary things that a lot of people ask is around, the self healing AI feature that you have, and I think that is very cool. So I've always been intrigued by seeing it in action. I don't know if the crowd here has already seen it in action. So could you show us something around that as to how the self healing AI works with your tool?
Yeah, so first I already saw it on mobile, right? And so
Yeah.
on mobile I showed the three different how the self-healing works and how the automation assistant works and how the adaptive wait works. But I can show it on web as well. What do you think?
Yes, that'll be nice. And also, if you could show the secret parameters usage.
Okay, cool. So let me to share my screen. We still have time, right?
Yes, yes, we of course we have time.
And, cool. So do you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my test project project, and now I previously we saw that how those automation system and self-healing works on mobile, right? We try to test Bloomberg, for instance. But now let's see how it works for web. So we took the same principles of self-healing and automation assistant and adaptive wait, and we're using the same concepts for both iOS, Android, and web, because the challenges, although the platforms behind the hood are completely different. So iOS is completely different from Android, completely different from web, but the challenges of test automation are practically the same. So we're using the same tools or the same principles for web as well. So let's create a test. And this time, let's take I don't know, Airbnb website. And let's take the real Airbnb website. I always love to take real websites, not example websites. The real
Yeah.
websites are more challenging. This is
Yeah.
true, but they're more fun, right?
Yep.
And we're here to make fun. So this is our Airbnb, and here
Airbnb.
are, and here are this is the recorder. So let's create a simple, I don't know, walkthrough test. For instance, I want to fly to New York. Why not? Between some dates here, and I want to add some guests. And let's see what kind of apartments we have. Free commercial for Airbnb. Why not? And then let's click here and make it, I don't know, flexibility and type of place. Let's choose entire place, private rooms. I don't know. Let's choose the hotels and let's say. So very quickly we created the test case with around 19 steps, right?
Yeah.
And let's try to replay it and see if it works. In the first, I didn't try it before, but let's try it. I don't know. Let's try it to see if it works out of the box.
Yeah.
And now you can see this is the first self-healing. Step number 11 could not be executed by straightforward automation. And now TestProject AI looking for another path. So maybe there is a self-healing happening there, but you see it succeeded. And then step number 12 couldn't happen and it succeeded. And then step number 16 couldn't happen out of the box, and now we're trying to heal it. So within a test of 19 steps, we already saw 4 messages of self-healing.
Yeah.
This looks tricky. Oh, and it could heal this one as well. So
Good.
this test theoretically should be failing 4 times.
Yeah.
And if we want to see what kind of healing happened, we can run this test from the execution mode, and then see in the report, we will see what kind of healing happened. So let's let's make this parameter secret first, and then let's see what is the healing that took place here. So instead of using hard-coded value of New York City, let's assume this is a sensitive parameter that I have, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to delete it. I'm going to use parameters. I'm going to create a parameter. And then let's call it a location name. And the default value will be New York City. But I will make it secret. And this is how easy it's done.
Okay.
And now I'm going to use this parameter. As you can see, the NUC is no longer shown here because I created the parameter and I make it secret. And now if I will, and you know what, let's maybe close this test. And now let's run it to see how it's reflected in the reports, right? And so first you can see that you cannot see this parameter here anymore.
Yeah.
And it's encrypted. And then when I will run it, let's see the test that is running. And let's see what is the reflection that we have in our reports and how those field steps are reflected there. So it's typing New York City because it happens in real time, but it's typing it on your local host, right?
Yeah.
Because the test is running locally, because the agent is running locally. So according to the time it took, I can guess that healing took place there. Now let's see how it will be reflected in the report. So do we have any other questions in the meanwhile?
Well, yes, there is a question. Is it possible to create a framework using screen recorder? If yes, do we have some reference?
The screen recorder, meaning the
Test recorder.
recording tool.
Yeah.
Yes, you can create a framework. So basically, the test repository is your framework, and the agent is the second component of your framework as well. So it does possible to create a framework because you can also utilize CI/CD because TestProject expose RESTful APIs, so you can build entire framework around it. So, for instance, okay, this test failed, and it will be nice to see why it's failed. But first, I want to show you what kind of APIs is exposed. So, TestProject exposed those RESTful APIs. So, if you want to integrate those tests that you recorded in your in TestProject by using test recorder, you can trigger execution from here. You can run a job, you can pass parameters, you can do everything basically, and it will basically deploy your tests on any agent that you have around the world. So if you have many agents, you can build jobs and you can build tests that will run across multiple agents and will be triggered eventually by TestProject CI/CD. So let me show you just for those who are looking for it. So if I look for CI, for instance, Circle CI integration, but it's the same for others. So basically, this, yeah, it's a good example. One of the examples that can show you how to create CI/CD pipeline as a complete framework. So that your tests are here and your reports are here, and you can trigger your execution, then execute it on Docker or on-premise agents, and then get reports. And the same can be done while utilizing the SDK as well. But everything can be found here on TestProject docs. Here, a good example of how integrate test project within your development lifecycle. So if you have like a development lifecycle, when your developers are creating apps or code and deploying, and then they can trigger test automation to trigger the scriptless test on premise or on Docker, and then it will report all the results here back to test project. I hope it makes sense.
Yes. So there was a question which came in the meantime was, can we use it offline without an internet connection, or kind of generating reports locally, which probably the question means is offline execution currently supported uh, within test project?
Yeah, it's a good question. So although the execution is done completely offline, because the execution is done on premise, so the execution is done by the agent on the local component, it still need to have a connection to the internet, because it will try to report the reports back and pull the tests, because the tests are sitting, the recorded tests are residents in here on the cloud. So before that the agent is running, it will pull the tests and all dependencies, and then it will run locally, and then it will report back the report results. So if you don't have any internet connection, it probably won't work.
Okay. So there is another question for you.
Mhm.
JavaScript seems to be on the rise for test automation. So is there any plan to add JavaScript support for code generated using test recorder?
Yes, we have plans to add JavaScript not only for code generating, but as one of our SDKs. So anytime between by the end of Q1 and at the beginning of Q2, or in the middle of Q2, you will see a JavaScript SDK added here as well.
Okay. And here's another question.
Yeah.
Since test project is open source, how can someone contribute to the project like others can contribute to Selenium or other open source projects? Now, I can tell people off the top of my head that you could create your own add-ons and you could share. That is one. Yeah, that is right in front of you on your screens. But I would like Mark to take that question.
Yeah, actually, this is the right direction to do it. So just a small correction: Test Project is not an open source tool; it's a community free tool. Some parts of Test Project are open source, such as the Test Project SDKs are completely open source. Um, and the way to contribute back to the entire community, and we encourage everyone to do it, is create add-ons, as you just mentioned, and then share those add-ons with the entire community. So you see there are some add-ons that were shared, and here you can see the number of downloads and the rating of the add-on, and those nice automation extensions are shared, and once they're approved by us, they will be available for the entire community to use, and it's wonderful. Today, I think we have more than 3,000 actions shared already, 3,000 automation actions.
Which is cool. Which is excellent.
A lot of work.
Yes. Now here I am looking for another very interesting question which came by, and maybe I will ask you in a different way. So there are more and more automation tools coming up in the
Yeah.
market
Mhm.
today. A lot of activity happening in the open source area as well. A lot of tools are coming up. So, what do you think are probably two or three of the main unique selling points or the USPs of Test Project that would separate Test Project from any of the other open source projects that are available?
Yeah, it's a good question. There are many good solutions in test automation still out there, and there are many more coming, and it's great because the world of software development is going to, it's more complex in those days, and it's not become less complex, unfortunately. And those tools are coming as a result of a need, which is great. And as for test project selling points or unique advantages, I think that first it's give you an option to start quickly. So many of those tools that are coming, although they're saying that are easy and nice and etc., they will still require some expertise and some work for the establishment. So even those tools, to make them robust, to use them as a framework, will still require use third-party libraries, using reports, using loggers, other tools. I think that the first selling point and uniqueness of TestProject is that it's very simple to kick off. You just create your account and you download the agent, and that's it. And you have your complete framework. Rather, you want to develop your test case with SDK for mobile, for iOS, for Android, for web. You're using the same agent. You don't need to download different components and make them easy between them. So I think this is the first strength. It's the ease of use. You can kick off your framework within, I don't know, 10 minutes because someone else is building it for you. It's that simple. The second unique selling point, because I think that we're using best of breed technologies. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. So many frameworks, I read about some of them lately, creating new driver for that, and new driver for that, and then creating a new community. And no one knows how long it will stay, and no one knows what kind of support it will have. So we try to use best of breed technologies, which is industry standard, Selenium and Appium, that are not going anywhere, and just use them and improve and build. This was our approach. And I think that's the second differentiator. And the third, which is the add-ons and the collaboration, is quite unique on our landscape, because all the tools that, like I'm referring to the free tools and the open source tools, not to the commercial tools, they are local. They are quite, they have their limitations. If you want to build your own library, or I don't know, extend your test automation with dedicated functions, you will build it for you. You cannot share it with anyone if you want to. TestProject, and everything that happened with COVID, unfortunately, it's emphasized on that because everyone is working from home. And before COVID, we had those big offices that had multiple geographical locations. And I think that TestProject nicely fits in the remote work agenda, because this is a web UI, and all of your tests are here, and you can work remotely, you can share them, you can just execute them anywhere. You just need to make sure that your agent is running there. So it's really robust and flexible.
Well, I can add one more to that list, Mark, and this is from my own personal experience with a lot of these automation tools, a lot of these open source tools. Uh, the learning curve for a new tester getting started with automation with test project is very, very small. You can get started even if you have absolutely no prior knowledge of how to automate or how to do things in the automation world. I think you can still get started with it, and play your way through it so that you can learn automation. So that is for me one big differentiator. And uh, on behalf of the community, I want to thank you for building such a good tool, and keep working at it. But we are still getting questions. There is one more which says, any GitHub project for test project framework? is there a GitHub repository or something like that where that people can access
Yeah,
for?
there's a GitHub repository for the SDKs, for the open SDKs, that they can download another project that we open source. So if they will just look test project and on GitHub, they will find it.
Okay, cool. So it's been a wonderful interaction with you today. I want to thank you for your time, but before I let you go, I want to ask this question. This is a personal question from my side, something that I have been very curious about. What do you
Mhm.
like doing apart from building awesome tools like Test Project?
Yeah, so I'm trying when I have free time, trying to run like at least 2 or 3 days times a week. You know, to be in shape, it's important.
Yeah, you are sitting in the gym, so you can tell me
Yeah,
what's going on.
this is my room at home. It's my office room. So yeah, I have this nice exercise trainer here. And the second one, I love skiing. So in the winter times, I'm snowboarding. I love to do snowboard. I'm a big snowboard fan. So I hope that when the time will be better, um, enjoy it again, all of us.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for taking your time off today and talking to the Test Chat channel and sharing your thoughts on Test Project, sharing some wonderful examples, doing a demo for people, giving some insights into what's coming up in future, and answering those questions. I want to thank the audience who joined in. Thank you so much, guys, for your questions. And Test Project is a huge community. They are there on Telegram, and if you want, you can join them, and you will keep getting updates. You can join the forum, you can join the community, ask your questions, get them answered. I mean, the support is incredible. If you are looking for answers, there is constant support available. So and what I have experienced is that the turnaround time for getting a response is pretty good here, and I can see some links coming up already on the chat, thanks to Karen, who is supporting us from behind the scenes as always. So fantastic talking to you, Mark, today. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Pritesh. Thank you, guys.
And uh, you have a wonderful weekend, and I wish you more power for the future.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Thank you
Bye
so much.
bye.
Bye bye.